Welcome to The Yin Project. I'm your host, Emily Bevan. Hi, April.
Hi, Emily.
Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So happy that you're here.
Thanks.
So you are the owner of Estuary, which is one of my favorite shops in Petaluma. I feel like it's been there forever. It just fits into the landscape so beautifully. But you haven't been there forever. You actually opened during the pandemic, right?
Correct, yes.
Which
November
is like,
of 22.
who opens November of 2022? Who opens during the pandemic? And B, like, I thought retail was dead.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how, just tell me the origin story. How did this all come to be?
Yeah, it came to be over many, many years. So in my mind, I always wanted to have a retail store.
Mm-hmm.
And it never really worked out. But I would always walk spaces in town and look at them and kind of think, like, what could I do here? What could I do here if? And I'd look at rental rates and just, I would always run the business model in my head.
Like in Petaluma specifically?
In Petaluma specifically.
Remind me how long you've been here.
I've been here something like 22 years. Of the last 30 years, 22.
Wow.
I've left, a couple times. So I'd always look at spaces, and I'd been dreaming of this for a long time and running business models, like I said, and this space became open, which was the one space I would truly, truly loved. It's a beautiful building. It opens up onto the river, and I'd had a dream, actually, that I had an office on the river not too long before this. And the space became open, and just everything fell into place for me to take it. And it was exactly the wrong time to do it. Maybe, who knows? But it was the time it was open.
Do you feel like you got a little bit of a deal because it was the pandemic?
A little bit. I knew what rates were just because I had run leases for the company I was at before, commercial spaces. So I knew enough about leasing and rent. But the thing with that space is it's so large.
It is a large space.
So the overhead is high just because of the square footage.
Right.
But it's beautiful. It hadn't been open in 30 years. So I couldn't wait. I was like,
what was there? What was there prior?
So it was Bluestone, Maine for 30 years. But for 15 years, it was Bluestone, Maine, the furniture store.
Oh, okay.
With Sarah, the owner, who's super sweet. And for 15 years before that, it was Maggie Best, who had Bluestone, Maine, which was a home and garden store, which was really loved by the town of Petaluma. And I loved it. It was just a magical place to go into. So I wanted to bring that back into that space, which she had created there.
Yeah.
At that time, yeah.
So I know that you do have gardening supplies and you have lifestyle products, and then you have some really awesome brands. And we were kind of just talking about this prior to going on camera, some of the brands that you support. And I really admire that you have a lot of products that are made in the United States. And you try and look for companies that have a sustainability component or a traceability component. Like, just tell me a little bit about like how you picked, and maybe mention a couple of the brands that like you're super excited about for spring.
Yeah. So brands that I picked. So when I opened the store, I wasn't doing as much clothing. So I started with Outer Known, who's Kelly Slater, who's a surfer. I started with his brand and what he's doing for sustainability.
What's in his lineup?
Oh, he makes really cute jumpsuits. I almost wore one today. I should have worn it. They're great. It's one piece. You zip it up. It's got pockets. You can wear a little T-shirt under it. It's
nice.
Super cute.
What's it made out of?
Cotton and linen.
Okay.
Comes in many colors. Black, white, pink. You can get in all sorts of colors. And
Fun.
It's really cute. Easy to wear.
Yeah.
He has...
The jumpsuit is back.
The jumpsuit's been back, yeah.
It's been back. Good. Yeah.
It's
especially in Sonoma. Yeah.
Good for lots of things.
Yeah.
Going out to dinner.
What else does he make?
We've got cute shorts, if you remember OP shorts. Do you remember those? You might be a little too young for those. Corduroy shorts. Little corduroy shorts. We've got those.
I remember wearing
T-shirts.
shorts.
Yeah. We usually do beanies
20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I lived in San Francisco for 10, and you just don't wear shorts. We wear a lot of cashmere there. So maybe I'll wear shorts again.
Yeah. He makes shorts. They're cute. He's, it's a surfing brand. So.
Yeah.
Very cute stuff. One of the things I really love about them, and I was going to ask their sales rep, is they actually pack things in a not a plastic bag. They use a paper bag.
Oh, nice.
So, because so many brands have gone to e-commerce, they ship everything now in eaches. So, an individually packed in each individual. So, if you order 12 T-shirts, you get 12 plastic wrapped T-shirts, which makes for a lot of trash
waste.
And we really try to reuse everything that comes in. So our boxes we bring to 2nd Street, Petaluma Pottery on 2nd Street, and then our packing material we bring to Chelsea Antiques.
Mm-hmm.
So we try, but the plastic has no place to go. I mean, we take it, use it for dog bags.
In Sonoma County, is harder to recycle plastics than in San Francisco. In San Francisco, they would take your soft plastic, and they won't take it here. And in fact, they will fine you if you put it into the recycling bin. But that's kind of a whole other topic on what they recycle and what they don't. And I've heard I've heard that they don't actually really recycle any of it. And
well, some things are more recyclable. So tin, I believe, is very recyclable, and glass. It's easy for them to pick it out, and it's easy for them to recycle, and it's a cleaner process.
Yeah.
Most other things are not super recyclable. Paper, I think, a little bit, but it has to be a certain size even.
I love Trader Joe's, but I think they are one of the biggest abusers of plastics. Like everything comes in plastic on plastic, and you buy like a couple bell peppers and they're in that clamshell plastic, and it's like so much plastic at the end of your trip. But like, love the store, want to support them, but I wish they would have more sustainable packaging. But I like to think I'm an optimist. We're headed in that direction. I think hopefully 10, 20 years, everything will have to be compostable.
I hope so. It's not even Trader Joe's was the worst, but now, I mean, Whole Foods you can't really get lettuce and spinach loose that much anymore, right? They're all coming. Everything is all the berries, right? You can't get berries that aren't in.
You just look at
anymore.
all the plastic that touches our food. It's like, can you get anything that has not been touched by plastic? All the salads in the bag and all of that.
Right. Everything. Yeah.
These are things I think about for sure. I know you do too.
Well, it's so interesting because this morning I was thinking about that. I grabbed strawberries.
Yeah.
And I was washing my strawberries, and I was thinking I need to go see Dan at Jupiter. He's just getting strawberries in. And I looked around, and for somebody who's trying not to have a lot of plastic, I still have a bunch of plastic. And I thought, I need to have someone come in, either Dan or Naomi from Lunchette, and say, how would I do a week of meals with no plastic? Because
how do you get it from the store unless you go to the farmer's market?
I need them to be like, here's your meal plan, here's everything, and here's where you get it all from. Because I mean, I do a CSA, I shop local, I do everything I can because my background's in natural food and sustainability, and I do everything I can, and I still open up my refrigerator and I'm like, I can't believe how much plastic is sitting in here.
I know. All the produce. I know. Okay, so,
and at the store. So like I said, we try to reuse the bags. We use them to line the trash can. We use them.
Yes.
I put them outside my house for people to take for their dogs. I mean, but there's still just way too much. So that's Outerknown. That's one brand.
Yeah.
I mean, we carry a lot of different brands. The pants I'm wearing are Nation. They're made in the USA. They make cute tops, pants, really cute, fun styles, colors.
The stuff that's happening that's being made in the USA, in my mind, a lot of that is happening in LA.
LA and New York.
LA and New York, okay. Like when I designed my house and got furniture, we tried to buy as much made in the U.S. as we could for a lot of different reasons. And I was very pleasantly surprised to see how many furniture makers are down in L.A. and clothing. Like there's like a lot happening in L.A. in terms of manufacturing. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, I hope it stays. I hope we can keep supporting it. And it's one of those things that people will come in and say, why is this T-shirt? We have these great stateside T-shirts. Why is this T-shirt $72? You know, I can get one from Amazon.
Sure, of course you can. You get it for $1 on Shein.
Right, and that's true. You can.
Yeah.
And if that's what you need to get, that's okay too.
Yes.
So the reason these shirts are what they are is you're getting, some of the brands have organic cotton. Organic cotton mostly comes from India. You're paying for the farming practice. You're paying for the farmers. You're paying for, then in LA, you're paying for a worker to make a living wage in California. So it's all of those things that go into the cost of making the item that you're wearing, which we tend not to remember that most of the fabrics we have are from the ground.
Right.
From the earth, right? At some point, they're they're farmed.
Let's talk about that a little bit because I feel like fast fashion is a hot topic right now. And I mean, it's a business. I don't see it ever going away. I mean, what are these companies just are they just going to fold? There is a demand. It's so funny because I was having a conversation with a girlfriend, and we were talking about, being American and what does that mean in terms of our culture, and what are the traditions that we uphold. And we were trying to think, Thanksgiving is a big one. Mm-hmm. Certainly if you have a specific religion, you're maybe adhering to some of those. But we as like a culture, as a society, 4th of July, we don't have that many traditions. And we said, well, like, we're kind of known for being consumers. Like, we as Americans are consumers. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty shitty to be thought of that way. But it's kind of true. But I'm all about buying higher quality and less. But then I think a lot of people are fed this, like, what's the latest fashion trend? And I mean, I do see some of that going away. And, capsule wardrobes, minimalist wardrobes, like those conversations I think are definitely getting started. But the numbers are not good when you look at the waste that's involved, and just what goes into making that $5 t-shirt at Target. What are your thoughts like on fast fashion? Certainly I know you don't support it.
I have lots of thoughts on fast fashion.
Yeah.
I think I think we have to make it more expensive. I don't think it's a good idea. I think there's other ways to get clothing besides fast fashion. I think thrift storing is a great idea. I think consignment. Yeah. I think there are other ways for people to get things, and it doesn't need to be things that are, the fact that, a big brand that you didn't mention, they make fast fashion, and then if it doesn't sell, at one point they were just burning it in countries because there was no outlet. So they make stuff that's disposable. You wear it once and it falls apart, and that's really what it's supposed to do. So you buy more. So I would love to see us getting to a model that is more sustainable.
Like, could everyone just have 2 pairs of pants?
But on the same side, I also see, there is a lot of creativity and self-expression that comes through clothing. And for me, I'm like, oh, don't tell me I can only have 2 pairs of pants. Like, yeah. I love expressing myself through how I dress. Yeah. It's one of the things I find super fun. And I've always, I shouldn't say I don't care what people think, but I've always just worn things that I liked or found things that I liked, whether it be 50 cents or $50, and I think people should have the option to express themselves, but they can do that by, buying from a thrift store, buying from, I think that a blended look is always really nice.
Love the blended look. Love the high and low. Mm-hmm. Love that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that should be available to everyone to be able to do
and
that.
I will say, like, back to the high and low, like, it feels like now, like, skinny jeans are out, which is awesome.
Except what do we do
and I hope
with
they
those?
don't come back. Yeah, except what do we do with our skinny jeans? But it does feel like today we are living in a time where there really are no rules. And when I was growing up, it was like, oh my God, Becky is wearing a black belt with her brown shoes. She needs to die. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was very like, how dare she? And then the whole like white after Labor Day, which has a whole historical component to it, and like all the rules. And to me, it seems like there are no rules. Sometimes when I see the guy, going to coffee in his pajamas, I'm kind of like, I wish there was some freaking rules. You know what I mean? But like, for the most part, there are no rules, and like, you can kind of do whatever you want to do. And we're grabbing from all different decades, and it's just all kind of like a wonderful mixing pot. Or tell me I'm completely wrong. What do you think?
No, I think you're right. I think also it's different coastal. East Coast is different than California.
Well, yes, in many ways.
Right, yeah.
Do you feel like the rules are a little bit more strict there? Because we're so casual.
Oh, yes.
And sometimes I do love, like, and that's why I love, like, I'm pretty casual today. I mean, I have designer sneakers on and, like, good jeans, but sometimes what I was going to say is, like, I love working in real estate because I get dressed up and other people are dressed up, and, like, it feels good. But on the most part, California is so much more casual than New York. Like, even going out to dinner, it's like you could be dressed up, but the guy next to you is, still wearing his pajamas from his coffee that morning type thing.
Right. Yeah. So I think the East Coast does have more rules. And Do I like that?
What are those rules? What are they now?
The white before Labor Day. I mean, my mom always wanted us to be dressed a certain way and look a certain way. And usually that was much more structured, not as loose, not as flowy, not as bohemian. It was definitely more button down look for sure. More put together.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole Sonoma vibe. Like, let's sum up the Sonoma fashion in like a couple of words for women specifically.
Oh, gosh, that's a good thing to sum up, Sonoma fashion. Well, I have to say this. I think fashion is in an interesting spot because no one knows how to dress post-COVID.
Ooh. Okay,
so
what
everyone's
are some tips
coming
for
out of
our
COVID and
listeners?
saying, like, all I've been wearing is sweatpants and, I haven't worn something that buttons, and I want to go out to dinner. I want to go out with my friends, and I have nothing to wear. And how do I do that? Or what kind of jeans? Like right now, even
don't wear those damn skinny jeans because they're out.
Even the jean brands. I mean, we've got barrel leg, we've got wide leg, we've got boot cut, we've got still some people wanting skinny jeans. We've got the high waist, the low waist,
some people
and the
look great in
mid-rise.
skinny jeans. Most people do not.
Mm-hmm. So I think everyone's kind of trying to figure out where they fit and what they want now that they can kind of choose. Now I might be going back to work 2 days a week, or I might be going back into the office as well.
Right.
So I want something that I can wear to the office, out to dinner, to see some friends, that's pretty versatile. So I'd say Sonoma is a little bit more dressy than Southern California. There is a little bit of that coastal grandma maybe here.
Yeah.
Hat
is crucial.
Yes.
You got to have a good hat in Sonoma.
A good hat. Somebody had said the Sonoma vest. You need a vest or a layering piece that you love.
Well, I mean, that's, and that is just a functional. You got to have that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially when the fog rolls in.
Yeah. I mean, it's cold in the morning for sure. And then I feel like skirt, dress, that easy breezy.
You need something that you can throw on when it's hot for sure. And then something casual. And I will say most people don't, I would love to see white have a comeback, but most people won't wear white because they just find that it's
I feel that way with two kids and two dogs.
Kids and, that it will.
I love white, but it scares me a little bit.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people feel that way.
So how is the store? How is the store going? You opened what you said was the worst time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how is it going? How is it being received in Petaluma?
Mm-hmm.
And like, what was that real reason you wanted to be there? And my other kind of follow-up question, because I know what you're doing, but I would love for you to talk more about it, is like, what does community mean to you? Like, why do we need a retail store?
Mm-hmm. So the first, I think, was a little bit about opening up in COVID. Again, was when I opened, people come in now and they say, oh, you have so much more stuff in your store. And part of it is when I opened the store during COVID, there was this huge supply chain issue, right? I don't know if anyone remembers that.
Does anyone remember that?
Does anyone remember the supply chain issue? You couldn't get anything. And all the boats were backed up, and all the docks and ports were backed up.
How is that going?
So it's much better.
Okay.
Things are flowing again. But that's when I was opening up my store. So I was getting things in piecemeal. I was stockpiling things.
Did you feel like
in,
the odds
places.
were stacked against you? Did you have moments of why am I doing this?
I didn't, because so many things had fallen into place that it was like, all of a sudden I was like, I guess I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And it was so fast that it happened. I'd been dreaming about it for a long time, but the actual time it took me to say yes was very quick.
Right.
So even though those things were hard, everyone was going through it. And so I just figured it was how things were, and I would open up with what I had and kind of make it work. But you should have seen pictures of my house. I'm sure I have some. I mean, it was a box maze, and then I had a storage space where I was storing some stuff as well. And I had 3 weeks to get the store open from when I got the keys, because I wanted to open and then hit the holiday season. So I got my keys November 1st, and I was open November 20th.
Wow.
And everyone said, there's no way you can do it. You're not going to find the contractor. You're not going to find the electrician. You're not going to find...
And did you say, watch me?
I did. Nice. I said, you know what? It will be what it will be, and I will make it work how it's going to work. But the doors will be open. But the doors will be open on the 20th. Nice. Whatever it looks like, it will be open on the 20th. So that's what we did. And we hit it, and it worked. And I thought we hit most of the things I wanted to do by the opening date. And It was well received from when we opened the doors. I think people were excited to have another store in town, another retail store. It was different enough, which is what I wanted to do. I didn't want to compete with anyone in town. I loved walking downtown and shopping downtown, and I wanted a retail store that served the population who was here and the surrounding areas.
I think what I really like about, like, when I first came into the store, I was like, oh, because I've told you, like, I'm a huge Nordstrom girl. I've, had a Nordstrom credit card since I was 21, 20 years. And I love Nordstrom for so many different reasons, mostly the customer service. If I ever have an issue, I can take something back. I just had a pair of jeans that I had had for about a year, but I mean, they had a giant rip in them. And in my mind, I should be able to wear jeans for longer than a year. And they took them back, no problem. Like, it was not an issue. But when I came into your store, I was like, oh, like, I have this frame T-shirt. Oh, I have that frame I have these, like, I wear a lot of the higher end brands that you have. And I felt like, oh, I don't have to, go all the way down to Corte Madera. There's a place where I can go and get good jeans and, like, the brands that I'm comfortable with, good cashmere. So I feel like it has a good place in the community to kind of serve to that, I don't know, bougie Sonoma girl.
Yeah, I mean, I think the brands that I try to carry, I try not to, it's not like I look for a price point that people are like, oh, it's most of the brands, I should say all of the brands in clothing for sure, but most of the brands in the store have been personally tried by me or my sister or a friend. Right. So, and mostly by us. My research budget the first year I opened was quite large. And that's because I wanted to be able to tell you when you walk in, this T-shirt looks like this, it wears like this, I've washed it, I've dried it, it's not going to shrink. I
love that.
This, is a little, whatever your body type, this is how it's going to fit
and
you.
I love that about you because you do speak to different body types. Like you and your sister, she's a lot shorter than you, you're really tall. So like you know how things work on different body types, which
and
I think is awesome.
Actually, I have two sisters.
That's right.
So one that works at the store, but my other sister is 5'4", very tiny, but larger chested. Yeah. And then my other sister is tall, thin, not as chesty.
Yeah.
And then myself, who's more curvy, taller or tallest out of all of them. So we range from like a size 6 to a size 12.
Right.
So it's a good, just in our family. Representation. Yeah, to say, okay, this would work on Andrea or my little sister, or this works on Gab, or this works on me, because it doesn't work on, there's few things that work on all of us. Yeah.
Yeah. So you also went through something else that I would love to talk about. Sure. That I don't know exactly when it happened, but I know that you were going through cancer treatment, and just like talk to me about that. Like you're healthy now, but walk me through that journey. Yep.
So post-pandemic, it was November of 2022, right? 21.
22 is when you opened the store.
We're in 23. 21 was when I opened the store, actually.
It's all a freaking blur.
It's all a blur. It was actually
November 21. But it's like when someone
21.
says 2009, you're like, oh yeah, that was like 10 years ago. And you're like, no, that was 20 or what, 2003. You're like, that was 20. But no, that's 10 years. Like, it's like the 2010s just didn't happen, right? That's how I feel.
I'm like, it was November 2021 that I opened the store.
Oh, 21 you opened the store.
21, because I had lapped my first year was 2022, and now we're in 23. Yeah.
And today is Thursday.
Yeah. We got that all squared away.
Yeah. Tomorrow, I think it's
Tomorrow's Friday. We got that squared away. We know where we're going. So it's good.
So 22, you had the diagnosis.
So 2021, I opened the store, and 10 days after I opened the store, I found out I had cancer. So it actually, my husband had found it and said, I want you to go to the doctor ASAP. I made a doctor's appointment, and then I moved it because I had like the contractor coming in. Something was going on, and I moved it, but I knew I could only move it once. Like I knew I agreed I needed to get in quickly. So I went and went to my doctor, and she immediately sent me down to San Rafael, to the Kaiser San Rafael, and they kept me there all day. And 3 days after that, I found out I had cancer, breast cancer. 10 days after opening a store in the pandemic.
And you're here, and your store is thriving, and you're thriving.
Yeah.
And like, I know that you love Kaiser, and that's like a big applause that they were able to get you in so quickly. And I have heard if you get cancer,
if you have breast cancer, you want to be
at Kaiser.
Yeah, Kaiser NFL, yeah.
So I'm assuming like your husband noticed some sort of like lump or something. Like, do you want to just like, could we just remind everyone as women, because mostly women are listening to this, like, what do you really need to be paying attention to? Because I know for me, like, I have really lumpy breasts. They're just lumpy. The tissue is lumpy. And so I'm like touching around and I'm like, this feels so weird.
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One is it's always awkward to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's
so like, let's talk about it. Because this is awkward.
Two, I think if you have a partner, your partner is a great person to also be in touch with them. Like, they know.
Just more objectively, because you're too close to them.
Yeah, and they know what's normal and what's not normal. And I was always like, I don't do the breast exam the way they tell me to do it. I'm not going to know. Like,
Had you had a mammogram previously?
I'd had a mammogram when I was 40.
Okay.
And I think I might have had one more.
How many are they recommending you have?
Well, it's an interesting thing, because they were saying every other year after 40.
That's a lot.
But then they were saying if you don't have any family history, you can wait 5 years. You can just push it off. So I just pushed it off because I didn't really have a family history. But I would like everyone to know family history is 15%. That's
not a lot.
So it is a lot in a way, but that doesn't mean if you don't have a family history, don't let it go.
Yeah.
As I did. Keep checking. So I'd say have your partner check, but it doesn't have to be, you will know. Like, mine felt like a BB. I knew instantly when I went to my
like a pea, like
doctor,
a frozen pea.
And I could feel the hard edge, and I was like, that just doesn't feel right.
Okay.
And it was so obvious. And it was small, and I caught it early.
Small.
Which was good because it was fast growing. There was a lot of other things that were not great about what I had, but I caught it early.
How did you work and do chemotherapy? I mean, to me,
and I had
if I have a cold, I'm like, I can't do anything today. Like, how did you do that?
Well, I think when you're going through chemo and radiation, you know a little bit what to expect, and you start planning for it a little bit better. So I was really lucky in the fact that, thank God, my sister was up here to help me with the store. So she was able to step in. I had 2 girls that had started working at the store with me who were able, because when I first got the diagnosis, I wasn't supposed to have chemo. They didn't think I would have to have chemo. So things kept changing.
Okay.
So I thought I'd have my surgery and be kind of like merrily on my way. And that wasn't the case. So when I told them what was going on, they were both willing to step in and stay at the store and work. So the week, and my ex-husband and his wife were great, and they would take my son for the week I had chemo. So I'd get chemo.
Because you're just white. You're there for how many hours?
I was there for 4 hours.
And then you're white.
That day you're fine.
Okay.
So the day you get it, you're fine, but it takes a while. You have to get your appointment. You have to go. You have to get blood work the day before. It's kind of this thing. And then the next day you're okay-ish because they're giving you enough steroids to get through the first 2 days. And then you come down from the steroids, and it's really hard. The next 3 days are really hard.
What do the steroids do?
The steroids I think they keep your white blood cells up. I could be wrong. But then actually on day 3, you have to start taking injections to keep your white blood cells up. And that made me feel awful. Your bones ache. You just feel terrible on top of having chemo. But they do get, so I took a lot. I took all the medication. I took all the medications. So I took Zofran. Every hour.
Zofran is a wonderful drug.
Yeah. So I took it all, and I was able to sleep those days, and I would stay at my husband's house, our other house, and I would sleep, and I would get up, and we would go for a walk around Spring Lake, and we would come home, and I would sleep, and sometimes I'd cry, and sometimes I'd eat what I could. And I did that for 3 days, and then the next day would be, usually I had it on a Monday, the next day would be a Saturday, and I'd be ready to go back to work.
Wow.
And some days I'd work the day I got chemo or the day after.
Yeah.
If I was feeling up to it, I'd go to the store and I'd do a display and I'd do stuff. It was the 3rd through the 5th day for me that I couldn't
So
work.
then how many rounds did you have to go through?
I did 4.
Okay. And how do they, is that 4 weeks in a row, or they?
No, you do it 1 week and then you have 3 weeks off, and then
week.
another week. I think it's 3 weeks. It's every 3 weeks.
And then they give you a scan at the end of the 4 weeks and everything?
Nope. Then they put you right into, you get 3 weeks off to recover, and then you start. It depends. Every treatment plan is different. Very different. But then I started radiation, 20 treatments of radiation at Pierre.
Because they felt like the chemo wasn't working, or that was just part of the original?
It was. They also, so I had 2 lumpectomies. So that they did the first lumpectomy. They thought they got everything and had clear margins. They took my sentinel node and some lymph nodes as well, but they were clear. And then they found that I had something called DCIS, which is precancerous cells kind of all over.
Oh my God,
So,
did that scare you?
It did, because she was like, we found another type of cancer and we need to go back in again. And, at this point I thought, oh, it's easy. It's going to be easy breezy. It's going to be nothing. And
what is your mental state? Like, I keep putting you seem so positive, and like I'm imagining this, and
when you're going
so
through
scary.
it, you just go through it. You just step through it. If I felt like you, oh my gosh, it must have been so terrifying. And I will say that when I was getting the biopsy and the mammogram done at Kaiser that day, before I knew, but my doctor had pretty much told me, this is what you've got.
Yeah.
I pretty much knew. I remember thinking, is there anything in my life I would change? Is there anything in my life I would change? And my mom died at 57, and I always thought, I'm going to live the life I'm going to live, but plan for the future. It's always been my motto.
I have a little bit of fear around end of life in terms of like the type of care. I don't want to be dumped into some facility and like left in a corner. Like I have some fear around that. I want like the Ritz-Carlton of retirement. You know what I mean? I want to be well cared for. So financially, I think there's like some fear and some worry there. And I do think that you have to like plan. But with that said, you also have to like live your life today, because tomorrow is not guaranteed for anyone. And there are people in my life that, like, for instance, my mom, she saves all of the Christmas gifts, all the candles, all the nice soaps, anything I give her, she's saving it one day. And it's like, burn the fucking candle.
Right. When is one day going to happen?
When is one day going to happen?
Right.
Like, burn the candle.
Yeah.
Use the fancy soap.
Right.
Like today's the day.
Right.
So, but it's like everyone is different, but it's a balance. So
it is a balance for sure. So I asked myself, is there anything in life, like, is there anything I would change? Am I going to walk out of here and change anything? And I thought, no, my life is exactly how I want it to be. Did you feel like
some of the BS went to the wayside when you were going through that? You know what I mean? Like, I imagine I would just be like, I don't really care about what's going on in the media. I don't really care about.
There was definitely like, I'm not going to read the news because why? Like, it's not doing anything for me right now. I can't. Like, I just don't want to add it to my mental list right now. I'm not going to do that. And I do, looking back, there is some, I don't know if it's gratitude. You can't have it when you're going through it. And, all the false positivity can be really hard, too, when you're going through it. Everyone's like, oh, well, look at the bright side. It's like, well, no, right now it's hard. I'm having a hard time. And that's okay to have a hard time,
I find that annoying.
Yeah.
I feel like that is people's response, where we are like not allowed to be sad, not allowed to grieve, not allowed to just feel your feelings of like, this sucks, and just getting someone to be like, yep, this sucks. Like, not like, oh, it's like a way, it's like some sort of defense mechanism to be like, oh, but this is going to be fine, and then we're going to hear, you know what I mean?
It's so uncomfortable for people. Like,
I
walked around with a heart pillow under my arm because the doctor told me I had to, after I had surgery twice, and I had to do it for like, I don't know, 3 weeks. One person asked me about it. 2 people asked me about it in the store. One person because she knew she'd gone through it, and another person was just curious. Yeah. But, I mean, it's obvious that it's weird. Yeah. Right? And then I wore a wig for a while, but after I lost my hair, there was a point where it was just too hot, and I, like, would I was bald, pretty much bald. And I was working in the store and trying to live. And
trying
being the key word. I mean, at that point I was like, why didn't I eat healthier? And I was like, I was survival. It was like, you do whatever you can.
Right.
I wasn't eating badly, but I wasn't, doing great. But I was trying to survive, and no one really asked me about it. So women will come into the store sometimes and I'll see they have a bald head or they're wearing a turban or a hat. And I still get nervous and I'll ask them, are you going through chemo or do you have cancer? And if they, I had a lovely conversation with a woman last week who was just going through it, and I could share my story and share with her. But it's just uncomfortable.
I get it.
Ask,
I mean, I understand that part of it, because someone could be like, no, I choose to look like that.
Right.
And then you're like, oh shit.
And I think we are, in our society, we're so careful. We don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but we're so afraid of having conversations.
Yes.
So we have a lot of those conversations in the store.
Let's talk about that more. Let's talk about that community part of it, because I see what you're doing. I see like the events and the people that you're engaging with, and you have taught me like more about community and engaging people. Like, tell me more about that. You don't just have a store. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So I guess I could say, when I first lived here, there was a place called the Apple Box that was just this magical little place. It was a store and a coffee shop, and it was right next door to, there was a place that people could park their motorcycles, and everyone just gathered there, and we all gathered there in our 20s, and you'd see everyone. It was a cool place to be, and it just had this great sense of community, and it was all ages. It was kids, and we were in our 20s, and it was older. It was everyone in town. Everyone in town kind of knew each other, and it was so fun. And that's when Bluestone, Maine was there, and there was these kind of anchor stores that were cool in Petaluma. And then that kind of went away. The Apple Box closed and got sold, and it changed. And I really missed that sense of community. I wasn't really feeling that around town. You used to get it at Della, too, was another place that you'd get it. You'd see everyone. You still do now that we can go back 3 days a week. So that is one thing I really love about the store, is meeting people, talking to people. Same with my sister. We're both introverts, which is funny, but we love talking to people when they come in the store. Yeah. We love hearing their story. We love making space to learn about you and your dog, if you bring your dog in, or your kids, or what's going on. And we hear lots of people's stories.
That's awesome.
Which is great. And then we get home and we're like, oh, we might not remember their name all the time, but you remember so-and-so, she came in, she looks like this. This is what, her mom died last week. And, we'll remember, oh yeah, how's she doing? So we can have those conversations. My son's always like, oh God, what are you guys talking about?
Well, he's a teenager.
He's a teenager, yeah. And then it's nice, the other thing I get to do is I get to meet so many other business owners. Just this morning I was at a meeting and I talked to the owner of Luma and the owner of Hanks and Taps, and we had a lovely conversation. And it's just great to see so many creative, passionate people.
Do you feel like that is coming out more after the pandemic, just like a wave of creativity and energy? I mean, I'm feeling that. I feel this wanting, needing for community, for people to get together, be in person, go to events. Like we were talking, I didn't get to go to the Apple Blossom Festival, but I know that it was like really well attended. Like it just seems people want to be out and, together and living their lives. And I know new stores are, there are a lot of things that closed. There are a lot of things that closed in San Francisco. It looked pretty bad, like on Fillmore, which has some really great retail. There were a lot of closures, but there's new things that are opening up, and there's new restaurants that are coming, and it just feels like there's some energy post-pandemic.
I think there is. I think people are trying to figure that out too. There are different issues. There's labor issues. We were talking about that today. Why are stores not able and restaurants able to be open as much as they used to be?
What were they saying about that?
What I heard is people living in town, that it's just so costly to live here that people have to commute in from other places, and it's just hard. It's still hard to hire. So, and I think the other thing that it's twofold. One, it's hard to hire. Two, you have to be making enough to hire help. And I think if there's not enough support for the businesses downtown and in all Sonoma County. If
Right.
you're not supporting the businesses, then they're not going to have the financial resources. And the cost of everything has just gone up so high.
Right.
So everyone's paying more for everything. So then the costs for everything are going up, and our income hasn't caught up, right? Inflation.
Right.
So that's also, there's some pressure there. So being in retail right now, I think it's a fascinating time to be in retail. We're at this change point, and I don't know what's going to happen. I think there has to be a new business model that comes through. I'm not sure what that is.
Well, we were just talking about the Nordstrom closure, which is going to be really big for San Francisco.
Mm-hmm. And is that a sign of things to come? Will downtowns and main streets just be restaurants and service, hairdressers, restaurants, bars? And is that okay? Is that what we want? I'm not advocating that one's better than the other. I don't know.
I love trying things on. I love touching, smelling, seeing, experiencing the product. You can order things all day long, which I did. I talk about the high and low. Like, I always try and have higher end shoes for a lot of different reasons. They're made better. They have higher quality materials. So I ordered. You really can't get designer shoes anymore and try them on in person unless you go to like Neiman's or Saks. I think I mentioned Nordstrom downtown stopped carrying them. Corte Madera has a small selection of designer. So, I ordered some online, and I got like 6 huge boxes to try on these shoes, and they didn't work, and then I have to take them back.
Right.
And it would be so much easier if I could just go in and, try them all on and see what winds up working. But that's me. So I hope that retail, there's always a place to experience the products.
I hope so too. It's hard, right? If we stop buying certain things downtown or anywhere, then the businesses are going to stop carrying those things, and then we are only able to source them online. Right?
And
You've
it's a
already
lot of
seen that.
well, you can get it online. We can get it online. Well, I don't want to get it online.
I don't want to get it online. But if people aren't, if the other thing that happens is people will come in and be like, well, I can get this from an online store for less. Why am I not buying it from the online store? Why am I not buying it from the brand? So they have to understand that sometimes a retail store might have to charge a little bit more because the vendors are charging us shipping. The vendors are charging us a 3% service charge to pay with a credit card, and that's easier to set it up, right? Because we're usually owner-operators. We only have so much bandwidth. So there's certain things that the costs are being passed through to us that an online business and brand
don't have.
Yeah.
No, I fully understand it. So with that said, like, what advice do you have? Because I'm sure there are a lot of people that are listening that are like, I would love to have my own store one day. And like, what advice do you have for them, whatever their format is, on like how to get started? Yeah.
I think have a business plan.
Okay.
How
did you write? You had such a rich history. You worked in marketing and communications for specifically food brands and advertising, and did a lot of like big things. So you probably had the experience of writing a business plan.
Right.
How would someone that maybe doesn't have that experience, like, how would they find that? Like local organizations, women's business bureaus, those types of things?
Yes, I think that's another thing I would say is get help. Ask for help. Be humble about it, and don't expect to ask somebody who you're going to compete with. Don't go into a store and be like, which happens a lot.
Really?
Yes. Don't go into a store and be like, I want to open up exactly the same store. I'm going to open up the same thing, or I'm going to open up home store. Go to somebody who's slightly different, or go to a different town, or go, and say, and people want to help you. And there's the SBA, which is great, and they can help. And Small Business Association can help. They're federally funded and can help people. The main thing I think people really need to start understanding is the language of finance and financials. Yeah. And I think you have to start there. And I spent a lot of time working in spreadsheets. And, it's not the sexy side of business, but business is run on numbers. And if you don't understand your numbers and your business model in the numbers, I think that can be very problematic. So many business plans can be written in stages, right? It's like that saying, how do you eat a whale? One bite at a time.
Right.
You just have to break it down into little phases, and you might need different help from different people. And there's the internet, which can give you some guidance. And if you need more guidance, ask someone who's done it, right? All you need is your financials, and make it sound easy, right? It's not that easy. Your financials, a marketing plan, and some branding and design plan, right? But you need to know your market. You need to know your target audience. You need to know how many people you're targeting, and you need to understand you're not going to be everything to everyone. There's people who come in the store and they turn around and walk away.
That's just like a good thing to know in life, and I say it all the time. When you try and please everyone, you please no one.
Right.
Which is so true.
Right. And that's hard. You want to. When people give me feedback, I want to hear all the feedback. And some of it, I'm like, that's exactly, I'll make a change on that today. And other things, I think, well, you may be in the minority on that.
Right.
One thing. So I'm going to just take it and say, yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Like, what was that? They wanted like a disco ball and...
Yeah. The disco ball request comes in a lot. No. I don't know. There's some people that will say your prices are too high. And I say, I try to look for lower end, less expensive items, but a lot of times there's a reason I'm carrying something that I'm carrying at the price point that I have it. There are some items in the store that are $4, $2, $7. There's a lot of different price points in the store if you look around. So yes, you can pick up something and be like, oh my God, I can't believe this hat is $750 or $750. That hat is $375, and it's made, sustainably made down in Ecuador, and then she finishes them in Ojai. Then I have another hat brand that's a packable hat. That one's in the $200 range. And then I have another hat that's a great sun hat that we use all the time. That's $45. Yeah. Right. So I try to carry a range of different things for different people who want, but I can't carry another one that's $10 and another one that's, so yes, you just have to decide who your audience is and what you can provide to them. And I think if owning a retail store is something I always want to do. It's my dream. I think if it's your dream, do it. It took me almost 30 years to make that dream become a reality. It can take a long time, but don't give up on it, and do it and try it. And if you or I or anyone, we fall on our face, we fall on our face. Like, then we know we've tried. We never want to get to the end of the road and think, I wish I had.
And I love that about you, because you have just such an optimism, and it's sort of like, yeah, okay, well, that didn't work out. Now I'm going to go do this. Like, I just love that. I think it's super refreshing.
Thanks.
So we could literally sit and chat forever.
Right.
I think we should end this and go try on some clothes at Estuary.
Sounds good.
And thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me today. For more info, you can always find us at yin-project.com. Make it a great day.